And it's amazing. Ryan asked me, he's like, hey, have you heard of this book, The Dynasty by Jeff Benedict? I was like, it's funny. Colin called me about it last night. We were sitting around talking and he's like, man, it's a fascinating read. So we kind of started pulling through it. And this is an excerpt from it. Excerpt. The friction between Brady and Belichick. And trust me, when I get to this, you'll be like, okay, I kind of see it. Like Bill Belichick to me has never changed. Never changed. And it's fascinating. You know, Donald Trump is back in the news in sports because earlier in the day, he reached out to the commissioner of the Big Ten in an effort to kind of put himself in the story. And as he has come out and said, try and get college football back. The Big Ten just released a statement saying they did speak with the president yesterday. So this is all fact. This has in fact happened. I think Trump and Belichick are one and the same. And I'll show you why here in a second. Let me read this excerpt. Doug Gottlieb in for Colin. So the friction between Brady and Belichick that simmered throughout the 2017 after the Patriots' historic Super Bowl win over Atlanta came to a head in the weeks following the Super Bowl loss, right? They lost to the Eagles, right? Jeff Benedict's book is called The Dynasty. Benedict writes, Kraft's paramount concern after the Super Bowl was the dynamic between Belichick and Brady. Belichick's decision to banish Alex Guerrero from the sideline and the team playing in the middle of the 2017 season had been the tipping point. Kraft knew that Belichick's methods were grinding on Brady. He also knew that Belichick was tired of the exceptions that Kraft felt were necessary to accommodate a transcendent star. The differences of opinion between Brady and Belichick were more pronounced than ever. Kraft wanted to clear the air. Soon after, Kraft summoned Brady and Gisele Bundchen to his home for a discussion, and Bundchen took up for Brady. She also pointed out how ridiculous it was after these years that Belichick still treated Brady like effing Johnny Foxborough. It was bad enough to never voice approval. It was BS to still dress down the most accomplished quarterback in league history during team meetings and treating his personal trainer and best friend like some kind of outcast. By the way, yes, Gisele Bundchen is the Yoko Ono to this story. She is. By my estimation, Gisele Bundchen is toxic, and that's the toxicity led to the breakup of Belichick and Brady. And look, anybody who's been married understands that there are times when the woman can become the alpha in the relationship. Remember Brady, and he was respected for saying this, and many people still do truly respect him for saying, like, hey, I had to check myself a couple years ago. Gisele came to me and said she wrote me this letter and what I wasn't doing. Keep in mind, Gisele Bundchen is an amazing businesswoman. She is financially the most successful supermodel in the history of the world. But supermodels expect to be treated like supermodels. And she expects her Super Bowl champion, 6-time over husband to be treated like a supermodel. But that's not how the Patriots worked. That's not the secret to the sauce. She doesn't get it. Which is fine. You don't have to get it. You don't. You don't have to get how his job works, how his team works. What you can't do is put your own feelings and thoughts because of your own business and how that works into his mind, into his life. There's the toxicity. And oh yeah, by the way, Alex Guerrero, come on, man. The mistake wasn't getting rid of Alex Guerrero from the sideline. It was probably in the handling of it. And in the fact that why was he on the sideline to begin with? Who gave into that who acquiesced to that to begin with? That's the mistake. But here's the thing about Belichick. Hey, Bill Belichick has never changed. Never changed. He's the same guy. Success has not altered him at all. Not a little bit. He was a defensive coordinator winning Super Bowls with the New York Giants. He became a coach with the Cleveland Browns. I'm sure if you asked him, I'm the same guy. I've learned some. I've made some different mistakes or whatever. But people don't change when they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s. They change in their 20s and 30s, especially when they get some success. That's what happened to Tom Brady. Brady changed. Or maybe he didn't change, but his wife's feelings and his probably complaining when he went home. Like, who doesn't say that, right? Who doesn't come home and goes, man, my boss doesn't appreciate me. Dude, he yelled at me today. And like, look, the language of a locker room is so different than real world. I call them civilians. It's a lot like the Montrezl Harrell controversy. Calling Luka Doncic a B.A. white boy, right? Like, it's trash talk. It's about anybody who's ever played basketball, especially as a white guy, has been called something like that. It ain't racist. It's just trash talk. And if you can't deal with it, you're probably not a basketball player or an athlete to begin with. The reason the Patriots worked was because he got dressed down. He gets all the advertisements. He gets all the adulation. You can tell me all this crap about Tom Brady being underpaid. You know, he made like $250 million off the Patriots. They move money around. There was a time in which he was the top paid guy in the league or in the top 5. And all they do is they move money around. But the reason it worked was because he would take less and then they push it back and push it back and push it back. And he did it for 20 years. That's why it worked, because he wasn't selfish, because he was willing to be dressed down in a locker room, because he was just like any other guy. That's the secret to the Patriots sauce. And it worked until Giselle got involved and Alex Guerrero got involved. And you're only playing great because you eat avocado ice cream. And Robert Kraft got involved. They all changed Brady. Belichick, same guy. It's funny. I'm one of these people. I've always kind of been a centrist, more of a left-leaning centrist, right? And I feel like a lot of the country is economically we lean a little bit more right. Socially, we lean more left. But you watch on TV and you're pushed to these far reaches, left and right. And now the left is trying to be exclusive, which the right has always done. And I'm sitting here in the middle of like, man, I feel like I'm on an island, but I'm not. I think that's how many of you are. We don't have to disclose. I'll just tell you, I did not vote for President Trump. I will not vote for him again, but I do respect this. He has not changed. Oh, he's a bully. When was he not a bully? He had a TV show where his catchphrase, his favorite line was, "You're fired." Right? I can't believe how many people he's going through at the White House. You can't? Did you watch a TV show? Do you know anything about his personal life? He took pride not just in publicly firing them, but in humiliating them, in pointing out their flaws. That's who he is. Well, he's dishonest. Do you know anything about him? But I will also tell you this. The things he said he was going to do 4 years ago when many people in the media on one hand laughed at him, and on the other hand, they put him on every news show. He's done. Can't close down the borders to, he did. He can't build up, he is. The tax cuts, he did it. Right? Like, he's going to beat Trump. Yeah, he goes off prompter. He says things that you're like, what? That's what that has never changed. He has not changed. Like, yeah, he kind of became religious or whatever. But, I mean, that's politics. I mean, he's always been a bit of a, I don't know, a liar or chameleon. And that's what people in sales and business sometimes can be. Okay. The hair didn't change when he got there. The suits didn't change when he got there. The persona didn't change when he got there. That's the same. That's Bill Belichick. That's Bill Belichick. A lot of people say they treat everybody the same. Bill Belichick actually does what he says he's going to do. A lot of coaches say, hey, man, we're just going to try and win each game. But they don't. Okay? They get caught up in we're a 4-3 team, we're a 3-4 team, we're a throwing team, we're a running team. We got to make sure this guy gets his touches. Like Bill Belichick's just like, all right, how do we win this game? Let's figure it out. Run the ball 45 times. The filming of, did they film practice? Did they not film practice? Like, by my estimation, everybody I've talked to within that organization and football believes that the Patriots, they don't necessarily break the rules. They just know exactly what the rules are and try and push right up to that limit. Whatever that gray area is. That's what they've always done. Right? Like, why did Deflategate happen? Do you guys remember? They played the Ravens in the playoffs the week before. They used some tackle eligible to fool the Ravens. They go into the locker room. They interview Tom Brady, and Tom Brady says, arrogantly but correctly, they need to read the rule book. Because that's what the Patriots do. They read and know the rule book and know every little trick in the trade that you can get away with. The Ravens get pissed. You have the head coach of the Colts happen to be a former assistant with the Ravens, and the Colts just happen to be the team that calls the league that says, hey, you should check the footballs before the game. And I'm sure whatever they did to the footballs, they've been doing it for years. Doesn't actually matter, by the way. It took the air out of the footballs at halftime, and Brady played better. Right? And they know, I'm sure they know when they test the footballs and when you can take air out of them, and they've done it the same way for probably 10 years before that. They know the gray areas of it and where you can do what you can do. They've never changed. What changed was Brady had to suddenly have his guy around all the time, and his wife's making demands, and the owner is, hey, we got to treat Tom Brady like he's special. Bill Belichick's like, we don't do that. That's not who we are. It's not the Patriot way. That's not how we've won for 20 years in a league which takes pride in the fact that half the teams that make the playoffs don't make the playoffs the next year. The outlier to that was the New England Patriots. Why? Because their quarterback took less in terms of money and took more in terms of coaching, and at sometimes being dressed down by his coaching staff in front of his team. They were different because they were the same, and they never changed. And you may take away from this excerpt saying, boy, Belichick was a jerk. Why didn't he acquiesce to Tom Brady? But it worked. And if something works all the time, why would you change? It's the opposite, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? What if you do the same thing over and over again and you get a positive result? Literally every year, it seemed like the AFC Championship game was in Foxborough in some sort of terrible weather condition, right? Like, how many times have I watched this game? It was either the Ravens or the Colts or maybe the Broncos against the Patriots. Like, every year. It's like, man, this is like Flipper reruns. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, you get the same results. The one that changed was Tom Brady, not Belichick.